AI is revolutionizing the way we search and obtain new information online. Traditional SEO tactics are rapidly evolving, and our strategies must adapt for us to stay relevant in this new era. SEO professionals are now faced with dual challenges of optimizing in traditional search as well as AI search. So how can you ensure your content remains visible and effective in this new landscape? According to the Forrester's 2024 Buyer's Journey Survey, 89% of B2B buyers have adapted generative AI and making it one of the top sources for self-guided information throughout the purchasing process. The challenge is clear. Traditional SEO is no longer sufficient with the rise of zero-click searches and AI summaries. So how can we adapt our strategies to thrive in this AI-driven search environment? Welcome to the Voice of Search podcast. My name is Tyson, and joining us today is Dale Bertrand, president at Fire and Spark. Fire and Spark is a strategic SEO and content marketing agency that helps e-commerce and B2B brands grow organic revenue by focusing on outcomes, not just traffic. Today, we're going to be diving into how the industry is evolving and changing and what we can do to stay ahead of the curve. Dale, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed a lot of the pieces that we were kind of talking about just before we hit record here, because obviously there's a ton going on in the industry. You have mixed opinions of this kind of doom and gloom or bright sunny days are ahead. So maybe to kind of level set with the listeners, how would you say that you were looking at the industry as we're seeing some of these changes take place?
Well, I guess what I'm looking at in the industry is that the change is happening. It's all because of driven by technology change, which means AI, because that's what we're all looking at. That's why Google's making the changes that they're making. And what we're trying to figure out is what's next. And the way that I'm looking at it is SEO has been a discipline, a separate technical discipline for a very short period of time. And that is over. We're now moving into a time when the SEO skill set really needs to be augmented by PR and more innovative content strategies, and then also learning a communication skill set so that those of us who've been doing SEO for a long time can pivot into what's next. And the thing that I want to stress is it's not just about the technology. I think what SEO was in the beginning was a technical answer to a marketing problem. And now it's going to be a marketing answer to a marketing problem. And I think that's what's really important. And I think the mistake that SEOs are making is that they're trying to replace the old technical understanding of how to do technical SEO related things to drive customer acquisition with a new set of technical things. When what's really going to happen is the new stuff is marketing. It's getting back to marketing. And that's really what's changing.
And can you elaborate on kind of what that means to you in coming back to marketing? Is that more diving deeper into things like consumer behavior and some of more of the fundamentals that went into whether it's, print, video, whatever types of more advertising channels?
Well, yeah, because it used to be that if you wanted people to buy your product or service, you need to understand their need, craft the right messaging, make sure that your product has a fit in the marketplace, and these are marketing activities, right? But then there was this short, brief window of time where you could generate sales without understanding marketing. What you had to understand was how search engines work and how HTML worked, and what the right HTML tags were to put in the right place, and how to press buttons in an SEO tool. That's what you need to know. But that's not marketing. That's basically doing technical customer acquisition. What it's transforming into is marketing. And that's what AI just allows the search engines to do a better job at satisfying queries and satisfying search intents. So in order for us to do a better job of marketers of getting found and generating customers for our businesses, we need to do real marketing to match the capabilities of AI. And these, you can think of them as technical capabilities, but what they're really doing is helping us find our target audience. And when the AI is better at it than we are as marketers, then what are we doing? And I think that's really the conflict out there. A lot of SEOs don't see themselves as marketers.
Which is, I mean, fair. It's like we've kind of been in this like two different worlds where even if you look at where it sits in the organization, you have sometimes it rolls up to the CMO, sometimes it rolls up to the CTO. And we have kind of been, and there's been this big push of like products. I mean, especially like Eli pushing kind of like the product-led SEO, which is, I think as an industry, we have been leaning more towards kind of like more of the developer framework rather than kind of the like creative side of this.
And I'll give you a good example, which is like a lot of SEOs and digital marketers in general are hiding behind analytics. So if you ask them to tell you something about the customer that they're targeting, what's the right messaging, what content's doing well on the site, they're gonna take a look at keyword research reports and Google Analytics reports. When what they should be doing as marketers is talking to customers. When you talk to customers, not only do you understand what they're searching for and the keywords they're typing in and which search engine they're using now that they have so many choices out there, but when you talk to real people, you also understand the why behind it. And it's the why that we need to understand in order to optimize for the right search intents, to basically craft messaging and content that satisfies those search intents and calls to action that convert. It's the why that we're not getting in analytics and SEO tools right now. And that's the difference between an SEO, like a technical SEO without the marketing skill set, and an SEO with a marketing skill set.
Interesting. And with that, do you feel more of the push then is coming from some of these, more standard SEO best practices are just going to be automated, through some of the advancements? Or is it more in the sense of as there's more and more, call it what you want, zero clicks or, answers being satisfied within more of like the search experience? Like, is it even just like a combination of the two, which is why we're kind of driving back into this?
So I think a lot of what we're doing now will be automated, but that almost doesn't matter if you're not reaching your customer where they are with the right message at the right time. So there are fundamental questions around where is the audience that you're going after. So I think the right definition of SEO is really harvesting organic demand wherever that organic demand is. So we all have, for our products and services, we have potential customers out there that need our help. They need our product. They need our service, and that organic demand might surface in a search engine when they're searching for a product like ours, or it might come up in a Reddit thread like we've all seen, or it could be in an offline conversation, right, or an online conversation with the chatbot. But this is all organic demand, and for us as SEOs, like it used to be that the vast majority of that organic demand was on Google, and that was also the easiest place to harvest that organic demand. That's what's changing, and in order for us to find that organic demand and convert it, we need to figure out where it is, and we need to understand our customers well enough to craft the right messaging to convert that organic demand. It all comes down to figuring out where your audience is and serving that audience. It's almost thinking of yourself as a publisher and not as much of a marketer, because what a publisher would do is understand their audience intimately and then anticipate what information they need when they need it, what are the right topics, because they've got this mind meld with this audience that they're serving. So imagine marketers serving their audience, not serving Google. And that's really what's going to work going forward.
Which I do like the framing that you're giving of like organic demand, because it's like, yeah, too often we're just thinking of more of like rankings in Google. I mean, sometimes you might have people throwing in other search engines, but like for the most part, it's just rankings in Google. But with that kind of like shift in focus, we still have the component of like measurements of performance, and so it's like how do you feel then about like the more traditional kind of like rank tracking and reporting on SEO from this kind of more traditional mindset, if we're repositioning and looking beyond just rankings and beyond just Google in that sense to more of like the users or the audience?
Well, traditional rank tracking is DOA. I mean, we all know that. Even the concept of like a query and like because the way we think about SEO when we're trying to rank is we're thinking about a user asking a question and getting an answer in the form of a bunch of links. So they're basically getting a research project. They have to find the answer on their own. And going forward, our customers are going to be having conversations with trusted experts. These are going to be AI conversations. And what we want is we want our brand, our products, our services to come up in conversation. And that's different from answering questions or even thinking of keywords as questions that have answers that we should publish. The way I like to think about it is imagine if you were to get engaged at a fancy restaurant in Boston, right? The next day you go into work and you tell your colleagues, oh, I just got engaged. They're going to be happy for you. They are going to give you advice whether you ask for it or not about planning a wedding, what venue to pick, how to deal with your parents-in-law, where, like so many things, right? Those are the
Mm-hmm.
topics that come up in conversation. They are not the answers to questions that you asked. It's just your colleagues having the context of who you are, what you do, what your preferences are through that relationship, and then being triggered by the fact that, oh, now you're getting married. Here's the things I think you should know. So what we want to train the AI on is that our brand, our products, our services should come up in conversation when we are relevant. That's why we're thinking about building content and brand websites going forward that are relevant to the conversations that we want to show up in. And in order to do that, the better we know our customers, the more successful we'll be at being relevant when conversations we want to appear in happen in AI.
Interesting. So it's like you're kind of swinging away from the, I don't know, let's call it like authority aspect of SEO and more into the relevancy or your relevance to the user, to your target audience.
Yes, because that's where we are right now with a pure LLM based chatbot, let's call it something like
Mm.
um, ChatGPT without any tools, right? But when we add tools, then it becomes a hybrid of an LLM based search engine and a ranking engine. So ultimately, we need to be optimizing for both. But even the ranking engines have been based on AI technology for a long time now. So relevance is what matters. Now, I do believe that there will be a concept of authority because it makes sense that some websites, some authors are more authoritative than others. We just don't know if that's going to be something that feels like PageRank based on the link structure of the web, or if authority will be determined some other way when it comes to these AI-based search engines going forward.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of this, I feel like, does kind of bring me back to some of my like marketing classes where it sounds like if I was just listening to part of this conversation without the SEO components, like I would feel like it's more directing towards like a branding conversation and like building more of kind of like brand reputation rather than anything else from like, yeah, a traditional SEO sense.
Yeah, the smartest thing you can do is build that trust and authority, what you're calling brand reputation, building that with
Mm-hmm.
real humans, with your existing customers, with the audience, with your customer base. And then Google and other AI search engines will pick up on that. Like at the end of the day, they're trying to simulate, or let's say the signals that these engines are looking at are proxies for what we would care about if we were seeking out the right human to answer a question or the right human to give us information. We would want that human to be knowledgeable, to have the right background. We would want them to be affiliated with the right organizations and institutions. And we would want that human to be endorsed by other humans that we trust. That is what these AI, or what Google, traditional Google search, and eventually the AI algorithms will catch up to that, are trying to simulate. They're trying to simulate this real world process of us as real humans figuring out who we trust and who we don't trust, so that they can give us the best information. So why not focus on that? And then when you get that traffic, making sure that you have the right messaging on your site to actually convert them into whatever it is your whatever action you're trying to convert them to.
Fair enough. And with that, so I mean, I feel like you're positioning for us like having more of this like mental shift. We're moving away from those traditional aspects, have this new kind of like focus of it. Maybe that has a different form for different products and websites. But like, what's the next piece then? Like,
Yeah,
where's it going next kind of after it? If we know traditional search, AI search, or LLMs, it's using a lot of, some similar kind of technologies or systems. So it's not really, you're not saying like you're targeting this one or that one, but what's kind of, I guess, like the next layer as we like kind of push it forward?
Well, it's important for me to say that the SEO skill set is still valuable. But what we need to do is we need to add more marketing skill set on top of that. The SEO skill set is still valuable because we need people, or the organizations, the brands that we work with need people who understand the technical aspects of making content visible, and also the aspects of making sure that content is relevant to specific intents that our customers have when that organic demand pops up online, like that we're trying to harvest, right? But what we will need to add to that in order to remain relevant and keep our jobs basically is more of that marketing skill set that allows us to understand our customers, figure out how to message our customers to get the actions that we want. And then also to basically talking to our customers and no longer hiding behind analytics and thinking that we're getting enough of the full story. One of the ways that I look at the evolution that's happened in SEO, especially now that like tracking is broken and we're not getting the information that we would love to have from platforms like Google and OpenAI about what's happening in those conversations. Like we're not getting that data. We're not going to get that data. It's kind of like the not provided all over again. Like it's going away and it's not coming back. So we need to replace that capability, which used to be spoon fed to us by the platforms. And before we had that data, marketers were forced to do marketing, like to talk to their customers and figure out what's going on. So I think the way that I'm looking at this shift is we can no longer pretend like SEO tools and analytics and Search Console are giving us all the information that we need to do customer acquisition on the organic channels that we're targeting. Like that's really what's changing.
Interesting. I mean, I like that it's kind of like you're painting more of like a balanced picture, because I feel like there has been so much conversation recently, as far as in most people that I talk to, is all kind of like advocating more of like it's swinging more and more technical, where it's more and more about schema markup or indexation health or like all these others. And it's like,
This hurts my brain. I don't mean to cut you off. That's
yeah.
what boils my blood. It's like the the world is changing for those of us who've been doing SEO for a long time. It's going to be a major shift. With any shift, there are going to be challenges that feel like existential challenges and opportunities. Focusing on the technical side is the wrong direction. Because the reason why these platforms are getting more technical is so that they can do a better job of simulating, like what I talked about around finding the right information, like and how you would find the right information and figure out who to trust as a real human, just talking to other humans. Um, their technology, or sorry, the technology behind search engines is getting more complicated with AI. I get that, but the answer isn't to dive deep and become an expert in exactly how LLMs work and how the hybrid search engine ranking and LLM engines are going to work. It's really about realizing that the reason they're getting more complicated is because they're getting better at helping your customers to find the information and the products and services that they need, that they look for. They're getting better at satisfying organic demand. So we as SEOs need to learn some new marketing skills that we didn't have to use to understand as an SEO, but we need to start learning those skills so that we can do a better job of serving our customers with the information they need when they're making a buying decision. And that's different from saying we need to understand the technical workings of search engines and AI and vector embeddings and vector databases and all that stuff. I enjoy learning that stuff. That's how I got into the profession, and I learned it as a hobby. But that's not the answer for SEOs that are trying to stay employed. The answer is moving in a less technical direction towards learning more of a marketing skill set.
To that point, though, so it's like on that, I think we're hitting on a really valuable element for the listeners, because there has been a lot of hysteria, a lot of panic, which I don't know. It's like we've had this conversation, I feel like every 5 or 10 years kind of in this space. But beyond just the marketing like mindset and learning some of those more fundamentals of consumer behavior, how people are looking for it, like the why behind it, like what are the other skill sets that we should be investing in as SEOs if we are concerned about staying relevant? If it's, hey, like maybe I'm a tech SEO and I feel like my job's, threatened in 3 years or whatever time frame.
It's threatened today,
Like,
if you're technical SEO.
yeah.
No, let's pause right there on technical SEO, because I get the spirit of your question, which is like, for people like me who have been doing SEO, content SEO, technical SEO, link building for more than a decade, going on 2 decades now, actually. Like, how do we pivot our skill set? And what I'm throwing out there is that the technical side of that skill set is what is less relevant. ChatGPT can do the technical side of my job when it comes to analyzing websites, understanding like quick SEO wins, moving pages from page 2 of the search results to page 1 of the search results. That's not the hardest thing we do, right? And then also fixing broken HTML and canonical tags. And those are technical things that AI can do, right? Like, what I can do as a human is understanding other humans and communicating with humans and doing high level strategy and planning around that high level strategy in a way that my organization, with its unique peculiarities, can execute on that strategy. And that's the direction that we all need to be moving. The good news is that if you've got a solid SEO skill set, then you've got a solid platform to build on. You're not somebody coming right out of school trying to get your first marketing internship. You're somebody who already has your foot in the door. You've been successful at your profession up until now. And now I'm going to answer your question, I promise, Tyson. And the new skills that you should be bolting onto that would be PR skill set, or a deep, I would say AI focused like content strategy skill set. Or if you're just the person in your organization who's really good at talking to customers and figuring out what it means. A lot of us with SEO skill sets, like, that's not our thing, but damn, is that valuable if you're willing to be that person, right? If you can be the person, and here's another direction that is technical. If you could be the person on your team that 2x's, 4x's, 5x's your productivity by going deep into the tools. And what I'm talking about here is automating some of what you already do. You need to be willing to do that. Now, all of a sudden, you're the person that knows how to push the right buttons to do the SEO analyses that we've all been doing for a long time, to automate them, right? Like, that's valuable too, because you're generating insights from those analyses. And if you're the only one on your team that knows how to do it, then you're one of very few people in the industry that know how to 5x their productivity. And it's possible. We have people doing that at our agency using SEO agents and different automations that we've put together. So that is a route that I think would be quite interesting for some people. But if you're, but the other thing I want to be honest about is a lot of us ended up in SEO with a content background. And that's really tough because it used to be that blog articles were really valuable. Now, when you're writing top of funnel informational blog articles, longer for your audience, like what you're really doing is training AI and you're working for free, right? So if you're coming at SEO from a content perspective, that's when I think it would really be advisable to move into PR or even like one thing we're doing is we're building content strategies around interactive tools. These are interactive tools that basically force people to come to your website to use them. Google's AI cannot summarize them because there's a database behind them. And marketers without a technical background can create these tools using AI. And in my opinion, these are the new SEO content, which is these tools. So if you could build a specialty around that, that's a great place to be right now.
I feel like from that, there's still some, I don't know, there's still like a silver lining or a hope from like the technical side. Because even though, yes, some of those like technical implementations could be served from SEO agents, that same mindset could be someone that then drifts more into more like, I almost describe it as like an architect in that sense of like, well, what are those tools? What are those agents? What are those things? How to
Oh,
kind
I
of
love it. I
create
love it.
those
If you
plays.
if you look on my LinkedIn, I posted a job posting for an AI agent SEO strategist. And the primary responsibilities are to document SEO workflows. These are analyses that we do, keyword research, authority building strategies, stuff like that. And to document them and then basically train the agents how to do them. So I believe that that's and people, I get booed off stage when I say that. I do a lot of conference speaking, and I get booed off stage when I say this, but unfortunately, the direction we're headed is, let's say you have experience in technical SEO. One of the core values that you bring to the table going forward is your ability to train agents to do what you do. And the shift that we're seeing for a lot of skill sets like that is that you are 10x more valuable if you are willing to train an agent to do that task than you are actually doing that task. And it's because the technology is progressing to that point.
No, I think like some people could interpret this as being maybe more negative or like, maybe some people are getting a little anxiety and some panic from this. But to me, it's like what you're describing is there's still a path forward. And there's also a path forward that's very, I think, conducive to the natural skill sets of a good SEO. Whereas a good SEO, we're naturally curious. Everyone fell into the industry from one direction or another. So it's continuing that like, hunger or seeking like something new information. And even like you said, if you're on the technical side, there can also be this route and this path, but you should be focusing more on the agents and the tools to carry that rather than just those technical implementations.
Yeah, I think the future is bright for SEOs who make the mindset shift. Your technical skill set is best used to train the AI. And sorry I said that, but it's true. And then if you can bolt on some marketing skill sets related to PR and customer research, competitor research, messaging, really the core pillars of marketing onto your technical skill sets in SEO, that's what's going to make you valuable going forward.
And I like that too, that it's the mindset shift. Like it's not something that we can't do or we haven't done in the past. Yes, it's new, but it's not, it's not something that I think is completely foreign to us as SEOs.
Yeah, I want to add one more thing onto it, which is that for those of us who've been doing SEO for a long time, we've got a technical skill set, but we often forget that part of that technical skill set is communicating the insights that we find to our colleagues, maybe internally at our organization. If you work with clients, like that's the whole business, finding these insights in the data, but then communicating them to the clients you work with and making sure that they can execute on the recommendations that you're making. So we're already doing a lot of that as SEOs, and that is the side of our job that we need to really double down on, because that's the piece that AI is not going to do very well anytime soon.
Absolutely. I mean, in our SEO, like we were collecting SEO jobs data across like 2024 to then be like, okay, like how is the health of the industry from like a job market perspective? And one of the areas or one of the bright spots was more in that kind of management leadership area where we saw more, sure, there's not going to be as many, leadership roles as analyst roles, but it was an area that we saw more growth. And then, of course, there was, more negative impact on kind of like the straight like content side of it. But with that, we're going to shift over to kind of the lightning round of the interview. And so these are going to be more shorter form, kind of, direct questions. And we're going to run through a few of them. Each one will have its own kind of theme to it. But the first one that we'll jump into is, are you buying or selling that optimizing content specifically for AI search will become more important than traditional search optimization by the end of 2025?
I am selling because you should be optimizing for your customers. Start there, pretend like the search engines don't exist, and then add a little SEO as a cherry on top.
Which this also reminds me of a lot of like the first things that I feel like we were taught coming into SEO is like design for the user, like stop chasing the search engine, chase the user. It's just like the table stakes are raised.
Everybody's saying that, but I think that when people like me tell you to when people like me tell you to optimize your content for real humans and not for the algorithm, what people think that means is, okay, I'm going to bang out a lot of blog articles that are just really, really useful. But that's not what it feels like when it's actually working. Like when you're building content for people and it's working, you're building an audience for your content. You're building a community around your content of like-minded people. And you're opinionated on whatever the topic is. And they come to you for information on that topic because they trust you. And that's what it feels like when you're doing that well. It's not just writing articles without worrying about optimization for search engines.
Yeah, it's like you want to be like using more of like the change in demand or direct traffic of like a indicator of how well you're achieving that rather than just, driving people to a bottom funnel page.
Yes, and that's real work. Sorry. Like we just have to think of the golden days of SEO as a blip in time, and it's coming to an end. So we're going to have to do real work to build an audience. We're going to have to do real work to understand our customers. We're going to have to do real work to learn marketing. That's the future.
Tell me how the relationship between content creators and AI tools will evolve over the next 18 months.
Oh, I love this question because the way I think about it is that because these tools are getting so much better, like you can imagine that you could create video clips like we've seen the demos, but eventually that will be cheap and they'll be able to create long video clips. When that technology is available, anybody can create video, not just people who are good at the technical skills. And so what that means is there's a lot more creators out there. Creators become people who have a vision, that have an idea, that can think of something novel. That's it. Like it used to be that in order to be a creator, you needed to have a technical skill like film production or painting or drawing in addition to the inspiration. And that's what's going away. So my real answer to your question about the relationship between creators and their tools is that these tools are going to get so good with AI technology that there are a lot more creators. In fact, everybody is a creator because the only thing you need is an idea.
I feel like too, it's just shifting the mindset towards viewing it as like an instrument or something. Like it's something new. Like you still have to come with that creative mindset to make something from it. But again, like the table stakes seem to have just risen from this.
Yeah, and we forget that there are creators that don't have that inspiration or that vision. Imagine, I don't mean to put anybody down, but I'm going to give you an example. Imagine if the only thing you did was sketch profiles of people's faces. Like, yeah, Dale, that looks like you. All right, well, you're really good at that technical skill of drawing a likeness that looks exactly like me. But where's the inspiration? Where's the creativity? And we've all seen people who draw, very entertaining and aesthetically pleasing caricatures of people's faces. Like that requires, creativity and inspiration. That's a human trait. But if the only thing you're doing was creating like a likeness of me that was very accurate, like you've got the technical skill, but not the inspiration.
Well, and I feel like, again, that should bring a lot of hope to people, because I feel like that's the biggest piece that, like, most of the time people that are on the content side of things get the most frustrated or worried. But it's like, if anything from this, I'm thinking like they're also well positioned to do just fine through this.
Yeah,
Next
what I
question.
see is a lot of what I see is a lot of content people who are in a job or an organization where they don't have the opportunity to express their creativity and their inspiration. That's true of a lot of SEOs and content folks, technical people. And so they're really there to write this article or optimize that page or fix this canonical tag, right? And we'd all love to be working at a higher level than that. And some of us are, some of us aren't. But we're going to have to figure out how to get to that higher level. The good news is that we're going to enjoy our work more.
And I don't think anyone should be that upset about getting rid of some of that busy work or kind of some more of the mundane side of things. But next question, though, would be, would you choose to invest more resources in training and educating LLMs about your brand, or optimizing for traditional search signals if you had to prioritize one in your strategy?
So one thing I want to say is like traditional ranking engines and AI, like LLMs, large language models, they're converging in terms of the technology. And the reason why that's important to my answer is because it's all about relevance at the end of the day. Like, is your brand, is your product, is your service relevant to the customer? And basically, the individual that you would love to get your message in front of at that moment is expressing intent somewhere. Maybe in a Reddit thread, maybe talking to a friend walking down the street, or maybe they're doing a search in a search engine. But you've got to make sure that you are relevant to that conversation, and you need to make sure that the whatever search engine or platform knows that you're relevant. So that's why I really focus on, it's all about relevance at the end of the day. So let's just do that.
It's not a mutually exclusive this or that. It's more of the target is off. And if you're hitting the right target, then both should come more naturally.
Oh, I love the way you say that. Like the way I would say it is if you're aiming for being relevant to your customer at the right time with the right message, then you might be off, but the search engines, the new AI platforms and the traditional ranking engines will find you if you're doing a good enough job.
Give me one word that you'd use to describe the next chapter in SEO.
I would say exploration. Like so many of us are trying to figure out like how do we need to upgrade our skill sets. We're also looking at the new technology and trying to understand how it works and what we can do to influence it. And we're doing experiments. I think there are social experiments around how do we fit into our marketing teams, our organizations. There's social experiments for us as an agency around how we can add value to the businesses that we work with, the businesses that we serve. But there's a lot of exploration now that so much is changing. And I think having that mindset is important. A lot of us want somebody to give us the answer. And I could pretend to be an SEO expert, but I don't know the answer. Like I can see where things are headed, but I don't know where they're going to end up. And I know that the old way of working isn't going to cut it anymore. That's the only thing we know. So over the next year or two, we need to be exploring our personal skill sets, exploring the value that we bring to the organizations that we work with, and figuring it out from there, because the answers will appear.
And for me personally, like that's the most fun part about it. Like that's why I was attracted by SEO in the first place, is that something net new, something, foreign in that sense. So again, hopefully this brings a little bit more confidence back to people in the direction that we're heading. Last question for you. What are the 3 areas SEOs should focus on to stay relevant in this next chapter of SEO?
I would stay focused on your market, your customers, and how your customers are searching. Are they shifting to new platforms? Are their queries getting longer in the queries that you can see? And then also, are they having conversations with AI platforms? Which ones? What pages are they landing on when they come to your website referred from one of these AI platforms? But stay laser focused on your customers, your audience, where they hang out, where they signal organic demand, so that you can start to figure out how to harvest that. What you don't want to do is to look at all the chatter around SEO and the media reports around what Google's doing and extrapolate that across every industry, so that it's basically dictating what you should be doing. You've got to stay laser focused on your customers.
All right, so that wraps up this episode of the Voice of Search podcast. Thanks again to Dale from Fire and Spark for joining us. If you'd like to contact Dale, you can find a link to his LinkedIn profile in the show notes, or be sure to check out his company's website at fireandspark.com. If you haven't subscribed yet and you'd like a daily stream of SEO and content marketing knowledge in your podcast feed, be sure to hit that subscribe button in your podcast app or on YouTube, and we'll be back in your feed soon. All right, that's all for today. Thanks for stopping by the Voice of Search podcast, and we'll see you in the next episode.